You've seen these posts before. Manifest your dream life. Step into your power. Quantum leap into your highest timeline. All wrapped in the perfect Instagram aesthetic. White linen, crystal grids, and more houseplants than a botanical garden. It all seems harmless enough, right? Just your typical spiritual content creator doing their thing. But what if I told you some of these aren't just Instagram accounts? What if I told you they're digital cults? And they're not just common, they are thriving. Now I know what you're thinking. Here we go, another conspiracy theory video. But this isn't about tinfoil hats or lizard people. This is about something much more sophisticated. Because modern cults don't need compounds in the desert anymore. They've got something way more powerful. Algorithms, carefully curated content, and the ability to reach millions of people while making each one feel personally chosen. Traditional cults needed physical control. Compounds where they could isolate people, in-person meetings to monitor behavior, physical separation from family and friends, and direct control over information. But digital cults, they have figured out something brilliant. They can create the same level of control, the same dependency, the same isolation, all while you're sitting in your home, scrolling on your phone, thinking you're just working on your personal development. Let's break down exactly what makes something a cult in the digital age, because this isn't just about believing in crystals or manifestation. I mean, plenty of people sage their house and check their horoscopes without joining a cult. This is about systematic control disguised as spirituality. Cult experts use something called the BITE model to identify controlling groups. It stands for behavior, information, thought, and emotional control. But here's where digital cults get really interesting. They found ways to implement every single one of these controls through your phone. In traditional cults, this meant controlling what you wore, what you ate, and when you slept. But in digital cults, it's about controlling how you spend your time online, who you interact with, and most importantly, how you engage with their content. Think about it. First, they'll tell you that you need a morning routine to be successful, but not just any morning routine. You need their specific morning routine. Meditation only works if you use their guided tricks. Journaling only counts if you're using their manifestation prompts. And it gets more intense from there. Soon you're being told when to post on social media for optimal energy alignment, what words you can and can't use in the community, how to respond to family members who don't understand your journey, and how to structure your entire day around their content. This behavioral control is subtle but constant. Miss a live call? You're not fully committed to your transformation. Skip a day of their practices. You're letting your ego win. Not engaging enough in the community? You're blocking your own abundance. Next, let's talk about information control. In a traditional cult, leaders might ban books or outside media. But in digital cults, they don't need to ban anything. They just need to flood your feed with so much content that you have no time to consume anything else. Between their daily posts, stories, reels, lives, community engagement, course content, and coaching calls, when would you even have time to seek out other perspectives? And if you do, well, that's just your ego seeking validation from the 3D world. And yes, they actually say things like this with a straight face. But it goes deeper than just overwhelming you with content. These organizations have mastered what I call the 3Ds of digital control. Distraction from questioning through constant content, dismissal of doubts through spiritual bypassing, and dependence through manufactured community. Speaking of community, this is when the real programming begins. And trust me, we need to talk about these communities in detail, because what looks like a supportive space for growth is actually one of the most sophisticated control mechanisms I've ever seen. In these communities, language is policed with surgical precision. Every post, every comment, every reaction is monitored, but not in an obvious way. It's all done through love and light. Question something? You'll be lovingly reminded to check your energy. Express doubt? the whole community will hold space for your ego death. Let me give you some real examples. Let's say you post about having a bad day. In normal community, people might offer support or practical advice, but in these spaces, you'll be told everything is happening for your highest good. What are you meant to learn from this trigger? This is just your limiting beliefs showing up to be healed. And have you tried my quantum healing program? It launches in 2 weeks. See how that works? Every problem becomes evidence that you need more of their solution. Every doubt becomes proof that you need to go deeper into their system. Honestly, it's brilliant, really, but in a twisted kind of way. Which brings us to thought control. This is where things get really interesting, because these organizations have mastered something I call spiritual thought stopping. Every potential doubt or critical thought has a pre-packaged spiritual bypass ready to go. Question the price? That's your scarcity mindset from your parents. Have doubts? That's your ego trying to keep you small. Feel uncomfortable? This is just resistance coming up to be healed. Family concerned? They're just operating from 3D consciousness. Do you see what's happening here? They've created a perfect closed loop. Any critical thinking is reframed as a spiritual problem that only they can solve. And they'll even congratulate you for having these doubts because it means you're doing the work and just bringing up old programming. And finally, we have emotional control. This is where digital cults have truly innovated, because they don't just tell you how to feel, they make you think you've chosen those feelings yourself. In these spaces, only certain emotions are allowed. Anger, that's low vibrational. Skepticism, that's ego. Sadness, that needs to be alchemized into gratitude. The only acceptable emotions are gratitude, joy, trust, surrender, and excitement about their next offer. Everything else is labeled as resistance that needs to be worked through, usually via another program or course. Now, you might be thinking, this all sounds pretty obvious, Durango. Who would fall for this? That's the genius of it, because no one falls for all of it at once. It's a gradual process that usually starts with their most powerful tool, the community offer. For just $10 a month, you can join their sacred container. Sounds innocent enough, right? Just a cute little community of like-minded individuals. But this is where the real programming begins. This is a carefully constructed echo chamber where every interaction is monitored and controlled, and it all happens through what looks like love and support. Post something negative, the community holds space for you. Question something, you're lovingly reminded to trust the process. And if you express doubts, the whole group jumps in to raise your vibration. Then comes the community only offers. Special discounts that make you feel chosen. Exclusive opportunities that play on your FOMO. And since you're already in the community, spending more money feels normal. After all, everyone else is doing it. This is how they hook you. The community gives you a taste of belonging, of being understood, and once you're in, the progression is natural. Community membership, small group programs, mastermind groups, and retreats, and which ultimately leads you to private coaching, which honestly the general public typically can't afford, but sky's the limit. And once you raise your vibration enough, you'll be able to afford this, as well as your own retreat compound sometime in the future, right? Now, let's talk about their most powerful tool, retreats. This is where the digital finally becomes physical, and it's designed to be transformative, just not in the way that you might think. Picture this, you're at a gorgeous resort, the kind of place you'd never normally splurge on. No responsibilities, no negative energy, just pure possibility. For 5 straight days, you're surrounded by people who completely validate your new belief system. The schedule is carefully crafted. Wake up at sunrise for embodiment practices, group sharing sessions where vulnerability is required, workshops that run late into the night, integration sessions, aka sales pitches, and carefully timed emotional breakdowns and breakthroughs. By day 3, you're physically exhausted, emotionally raw, and completely immersed into their reality. And that's exactly the point, because when you're tired and emotional, you're also highly suggestible. This is why retreat testimonials always look the same. Tearful people talking about how their life has changed forever. And in that moment, they truly believe it. How could they not? They're in paradise, surrounded by high vibe people, being love bombed from every direction. But then you go home, back to real life, back to bills and responsibilities, and suddenly that quantum timeline shift doesn't feel so permanent anymore. But don't worry, they've got a solution for that too. Another retreat, another program, another way to get back to that high. Let's shift to something a little bit more fascinating. The contradictions these organizations are built on. Because once you start noticing them, you cannot unsee them. You're the all-powerful creator of your reality. But also, everything is predetermined by the stars. Money is just an energy that flows freely. But also, you need to pay exactly $2,222 by midnight. You don't need anything outside yourself, except my programs, my coaching, and my special meditations. Trust your intuition, unless it's telling you not to buy my course. Material things don't matter, says the guru from their mansion, showing off their designer shoes. We're all about divine feminine flow, but also, here's my 5 a.m. success routine that you must follow to unleash the power within. That is not a jab at Tony Robbins. The real genius is how they handle these contradictions. Question any of this? Well, that's just your 3D mind trying to make sense of 5D wisdom. Point out the inconsistencies. You're just not vibrating at a high enough frequency to understand. They've created a perfect system where they're never wrong and you can never be right unless you're agreeing with them. Everything is either a sign you should invest more, a test of your commitment, blocks or childhood trauma, again, conditioned by your parents, coming up, the universe testing you, or your old programming resisting. Let's talk about how they manipulate spiritual concepts. They take legitimate spiritual ideas and twist them into control tools. Invest this money into my program because how the world works, that energy will be returned to you in equal proportion, if not greater. Manifestation becomes victim blaming, where everything in your life is something you created. Energy becomes an excuse, Mercury retrograde, and intuition becomes gaslighting. If you were really connected to the source, then you would know that what I am telling you is right. And don't even get me started on how they appropriate practices from various cultures. Butchered Sanskrit terms, misused indigenous ceremonies, cherry-picked Buddhist concepts, and commodified Hindu traditions, all repackaged and resold as quick fix solutions in their quantum programs. And have you ever wondered why every transformation story in these groups sound exactly the same? I manifested my dream life. I 10x'd my business. I called in my soulmate. Everything changed after I joined. The pattern is almost comedic once you notice it. But here's what they don't show you in those perfectly curated testimonials. Many of these stories are incentivized with program discounts, failed students are blamed for not doing the work, negative experiences are silenced or deleted, and results are often temporary emotional highs. The real genius is that they've created a system where questioning these success stories makes you the problem, because everything is you. Well, it worked for these other people. Maybe you're just not ready for transformation. Or worse, you're not doing the work. This is where the trap really springs shut. Because once you're in, everything in your life starts revolving around their system. And trust me, it is really subtle at first. Using their specific meditation tracks, following their morning routine, using their manifestation methods, speaking their special language, or adopting their belief system. Before you can blink, you're depending on their programs for guidance, community for support, content for inspiration, coaching for breakthrough, and retreats for transformation. And if you try to step away, that's when their true colors start to show. because in their world, leaving means spiritual failure, self-sabotage, fear winning, ego taking over, or, the childhood trauma that your parents programmed. After working and seeing how other organizations like this operate, here are the red flags to watch out for. In their content, watch for claims of exclusive spiritual access, pressure to make quick decisions, dismissal of critical thinking, use of fear-based marketing, and promises that sound too good to be true. In their community, watch for love bombing new members, shaming those who question, pressure to invest more, isolation from outside perspectives, and leadership that cannot be criticized. That is probably the biggest one. If the leaders cannot be told that something that they are speaking on is wrong, you don't want to be in that community. In their programs, watch for endless upsells, manufactured urgency, spiritual bypassing of concerns, blame shifting when things don't work, and dependency creating structures. Here's what transformation doesn't need: your life savings, cutting off your family, blind faith in a guru that you never met in your entire life and that you only see 60 to 90 second snippets that someone watched probably 10 times over to edit before it even crossed your feed, and real spiritual growth. It's never been about following someone else's system perfectly, buying your way to enlightenment, bypassing genuine emotions, rejecting critical thinking, or dependent relationships. And if you're caught in one of these organizations right now, trust your gut feeling. Maintain outside connections that don't think the same way, because those relationships are just as important. Question any contradictions that you notice. Set firm boundaries and do not let these people consume every day of your life. And probably the most powerful advice that I could give is seek professional help. Seriously. In future videos, we will dive deeper into the specific tactics that these digital cults use. But remember this: if someone's selling enlightenment, check the price tag, because true transformation might cost you effort, time, and energy, but it shouldn't cost your savings account or your sense of self. If you like this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe for future videos, and I will see you guys in the next one. Toodaloo.